Good evening indeed, Bang Racing fans, and a very warm welcome to episode 55 of Cage Full Throttle. It's the end of the year, so it only means one thing. It's the World Finals review for both Unlimited and 1600 fixtures that recently held at Ipswich. Before we go any further, let's meet our three panellists for this evening. First of all, he was at Ipswich. It's Jordan Hollands.
Good evening, Ed. Hello, everyone else. And yeah, it should be a good show, and we'll talk about our two recent World Finals.
He was also at Ipswich, and he brings a rather calming, relaxing atmosphere to it all. It's Dom Brock.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to be back on the show. It's been a bloody long time, but it's good to finally be back on and talk bangers once again.
And finally, the man that's making it all happen, who wasn't at Ipswich, is James Keane.
Good evening, Ed. Good evening to everyone listening. Good evening to Jordan, and good to have you back, Dom. It's good that you didn't forget about your other team while you're off in the glitz and glamour of Spedeworth TV.
Oh, I always gave you shout-outs where I could. Nearly got a kick under the table from Hankin for one.
Yeah,
for
and
one
we did hear that, and we thank you for it.
We do indeed. But before we do anything, it's very rare we do this. We need to say sorry, apologies to our track star. We didn't even mention the Nutcracker the last time out. And turned out to be a very good meeting, a bit of a mud bath. But we'll come back to that a little bit later. So, sorry, track star. We fully put our hands up and admit we were wrong on that one. We'll get a personally handwritten letter from our Director-in-Chief, Mr. Matt Josie, sent to us by courier or pigeon or something like that. We'll look after that, don't be worried. Anyway, we'll move on to the main events. There were two main events, the World Final. Despite everything that's going on in the world, it did happen. It was scheduled to happen, and it did. Now, fair enough, the numbers are a bit down. There were a few special measures in place for both drivers and spectators, but it did happen. So, a very big congratulations to Sid Magic, who is the new champion of the world. Won the World Final race in fairly dominating fashion, to be honest. Let's start with the people who were there first. Jordan, you were there just as a spectator, but you were there reporting as well. So, what were your insights from the evening?
Yeah, not as lively as previous years, but I think that was to be expected, obviously, with the reduced numbers there this year. But no, overall, I think it was a really good evening. It was a very well organised, very well run under the circumstances, and let's be honest, I think it was just a massive relief to finally get the event done. Obviously, after all the organisation earlier in the year, to then having that date postponed in the week leading up to the event, and then again for the rescheduled date on the 14th of November as well, having that cancelled and postponed. So, yeah, it was really good for Speedworth and I think for the whole National Banger community to finally get the event done. Yeah, like I said, racing-wise, it probably wasn't as lively as previous years, but it was still a very good night. That Mark II Granada Wrecking Train in the World Final race between Jordan Cumming, Viking, Brent Shaw, and 360 Jackstar Jack Reynolds was absolutely superb. That was right in front of me, and yeah, some absolutely awesome hits there. Adam Maxwell was, again, very, very quick. He won the first last chance qualifier. 5:06, Danny Mitchell won the second last chance qualifier, and again, he looked very, very quick as well. Ricky Finney turned out another superbly presented Mark II Ford Granada, and yeah, looked quick again. He won one of the all-comers races, and then congratulations to 388 Steve McGrath on winning the 2021 wildcard final at the end of the night in a very good drive after I think he had some sort of mechanical trouble in his last chance qualifying race because there were sparks coming from underneath his Ford Scorpio estate. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure what the trouble there was for Steve-O, but no, overall, really good night. Well done to Speedworth, well done to all the drivers. It was a shame that we couldn't get all the Continentals over, but I'm sure they'll be back in 2021.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it was a good race too to watch. Like I was watching Allison Speedworth TV. There was a lot of excitement there. Like, fair enough, we had a few red flags, mainly because of wheels falling off cars, but that's just the nature of modern cars these days. They're going to lose a wheel. But that was interesting to see because it actually, fair enough, Sid Magic, he kind of pulled away towards the end, but early on there, he had a really good scrap in his hands, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I think the battle for the lead was very good. Obviously, you had Sid Magic took the lead early on, and he had to navigate his way through 2 or 3 restarts. and he had Leonard Dunbar on his tail, and then he had 717 Jack Tuffin as well, closing him in the final couple of laps. But Sid was just consistently quick lap after lap, and I think he was just getting better and better. So yeah, for me, it was a great drive and very, very deserving as well.
So do you think the old adage, though, if it was, say, 25 laps instead of 20, do you reckon Jack Tuffin would have got him?
I'll tell you what, when I saw that Jack Tuffin overtook Leonard Dunn and moved into second, I was thinking Lee's last couple of laps could be interesting, but I think that just made Sid find that extra bit of momentum and find that extra pace, and he was just able to pull away. Given the track conditions, I think it was a night for the Mercedes. I think because they are maybe just that little bit heavier, and I think the shape of them kind of suits that slippery track condition. And yeah, Sid just ran away with it really, and he pulled back quite a healthy lead. And yeah, I don't think 5 laps would have made any more of a difference. I think Sid was very much in control of that one, and it was probably only either going to be mechanical trouble or someone waiting on opposite that would take him out of the lead.
Yeah, there seemed to be a little bit of oppo during the final anyway. Mainly Jonesy and a few other people stacking it up. But this, like, obviously you've seen a few World Finals now, Jordan. Like, obviously, given the current circumstances, was as good as it could have been.
Oh, that's a good question. I think so. Yeah. Obviously, I'll be honest. I had my reservations about it in the lead up to the meeting. I was kind of thinking, how many people are actually going to turn up? Is the list going to be entirely accurate? But to be fair, as the world finalists were dropping out, you had people coming in to replace them as well. So I think we were discussing before we come on air that maybe there was less material there this year than perhaps there would have been if it would have been a normal world final. But yeah, I think the whole meeting and the world final race itself was as good as we could have had given the circumstances of the year.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, we were saying as well before, the people are starting to bring tools and everything, so it's more about the Mercs and the Scorpios, and then whatever other new cars we discover. Like, I know Ace Ash had a slightly newer again C-Class Merc Estate. Like, that'd be probably one of the first noughties cars that's going to become popular, because I mean, I saw one of them earlier on actually, and it was a 05 reg, so 15 years old, be about old enough for bangers really. Plus it's rear wheel drive, and I can take a bit of punch from it as well, as we saw from Jonesy in the Chrysler 300C, or what's the other term used for them? I think it's Magnum Estate. Literally drove through the side of it at one stage. Plus Ash was right up against the barrier as well, so you'd know where to go really. It was one of the heavier shots of the night. But normally we wouldn't ask this question during the meeting reviews, but were you happy that you went, Jordan? Was it worth it?
Yeah. Again, I've got to be honest. I won't go into as much detail as I did on one of the earlier podcasts that we did, but the ticket prices were quite high. But let's be honest, it's still probably the showpiece event of the year for the National Bangers, and just walking around the pits and the build-up and that sense of anticipation before the main race itself, I think, just adds to it all. And the fact that, we didn't think we'd even have the World Final run before Christmas even. So yeah, I am glad I went, I've got to be honest. And I think those reservations that I had were, well, dare I say it, I was proved wrong in a couple of the things I was thinking, and maybe me and my dad were discussing at home as well. So yeah, for that, I've just got to say top marks to Speedworth and obviously all the drivers as well.
That's fair enough. That's a good way of looking at it. Tom, you were excellent with your analysis and your kind of post-race reviews. What was it like being there, just kind of on the right side of the camera as opposed to the wrong side of it?
Well, yeah, it was a very interesting night. I think I'd never ever have I been more involved in a world final night. Certainly the pre-meeting build-up felt good. It wasn't as busy, it wasn't buzzing like it has been in previous years, but it was nice to be going around the pits and just seeing what effort has been put into this meeting. I know there wasn't obviously the numbers that there were. It's weird coming out of a World Final meeting and looking at the numbers and thinking, oh, it's not actually the biggest meeting of the year. We've actually had much earlier meetings this year. We've had bigger car numbers, but such is the way this year has been. It was just interesting to see what effort had been put in to just finally get us to this point. We had so many interesting cars there. Obviously, there wasn't the material that we expected from some, but we certainly got we got the polar opposite on the other scale. We got Sonic with potentially the car of the year, and I just spoke with him about it that evening, and he was very pleased with himself. And luckily for us Banger fans, he's planning another year of the BWS because of the fun he's had this year. So some really good stuff that came out of it. Race action was pretty good. It's difficult to really compare to any other World Final I've ever been to, because last 2 years were pretty mad, and my favourite World Final 2010, you can't really compare it. This almost felt like a BWS round again. I almost hate to say that, but there were elements of this meeting which didn't feel like a World Final. Racing has changed quite a lot, I think, this year, and the competitive aspect really came out on that night.
That's good. I mean, it is the biggest race of the year. It's not necessarily going to be the wrecking session that it used to be. And the funny was, those watching on Speedworth TV, in between the cleanup sessions and all that, they're actually showing some of the older World Finals in Offload, Ipswich, and Wimbledon. Actually, saw plenty of posts and wearing a sea of Granadas, Mark IIs, Mark 1s everywhere. A couple of the older XJs thrown in, the material thrown in as well. That was just nice to compare. And then I have a few of the people who were analysing the event as well. Gary Magic as well. They showed the race where he was kind of in his prime in his day, and it was quite interesting to see the comparisons he gets to make about it between then and now. But James, you were in the lavish surroundings of Milton Keynes that night. What's the thing about watching online? Was it as good as being there?
Well, it was more Bedford than Milton Keynes. For those who don't know, I was unfortunately the date clashed with a pre-arranged holiday at Centre Parks, and given the latest restrictions and stuff, just about managed to get to that holiday before London got completely shut down again. But enough on that. I don't want to dwell too much on that. But it's the first Bangor World Final I've missed in about, it must be 5-6 years now since I missed one. So I did really miss being there, and I watched it on the balcony of the hotel on my phone, screaming and shouting. God knows what anyone else at that Centre Parks was thinking I was doing at the time. But it was, I think it's what a lot of people, what has already been said already. It was a really good race. It probably didn't have the eye-catching, photograph-worthy crashing moments of previous World Finals, but that doesn't take away anything from the actual race. Sid Madrick drove an absolute blinder. I mean, the field did start to thin out a bit after the first red, but I mean, that doesn't take away anything. He was absolutely in command. Ipswich is like an ice rink at the best of times at the Bangor World Final. Once the shale starts getting onto the track after if it's raining or if there's any moisture in the air, but he looked really in control the whole way round. I'm sure his uncle was going mad in the home straight grandstand. I think it was a really good race all round. But like people said, maybe not having the same amount of fans there took away from the atmosphere that encouraged the drivers to be having such a huge wrecking session. Well, never a huge wrecking session at the World Final, as we've already said, but maybe that sort of took away from it. But congratulations to everyone involved with putting the meeting on. Also to Dom and Andy, two people I know quite well from working around the circuits, and the coverage was absolutely fantastic. It really added, even though I couldn't be there, really added to the atmosphere. And the coverage was fantastic. I mean, it was never bad, but obviously people did, as the camera guys were learning and the production was learning, there was a few detractors to begin with, as you'd expect in this sport. You can never do anything new without everyone moaning about it. But the camera work, the presentation from Graham, and obviously, like you said, Gary was there, and Gordon as well. It was really well put on all round. So congratulations, not only to Sid, but the guys involved in putting on the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, it was good to watch. It was my first live Speedworth.tv experience, and I know I was trying to blag a free pass at some stage, but I literally input my car's details, which we won't read out online. Sorry, Matt. We'll sign up subscription the day before. We got the email the times for. We're going live soon. It was great to watch. It's a good. It's as good as what you get, say, British touring cars, F1. Like, that's just the quality. The fact you're sitting on your sofa, it's nice and warm. Have a drink in your hand, all that. Don't need to worry about anything else. Just sit back on your own sofa and watch it. And then obviously having all the other bonuses that Speedworth TV has to bring as well. No, we don't need to go into them. Most people are aware of them. Obviously, this being a world-class event, there were people trying to get away with streaming for free, but they were shut down, which is important because, we give out as much about people doing Facebook Live meetings as well. The same goes for people trying to share stuff online. The guys do put a bit of effort into it. They're not, it obviously is a business. The reason it's a business is it's very good, very good output as well. So there's no point in trying to rip it off, really. So, there were people asking us to share links on occasion. We just very politely said, no, it's not our business to. But it was good to see it all live, good to see it happening. And the fact that it happened. So I think what a lot of people tend to forget is be thankful that it actually went ahead, given that we had to be rescheduled twice. There literally was. It could have been cancelled any second if the council had their way. But by the sounds of things, most people stuck by the rules and regulations that were given out that night. Obviously social distancing, difference when you're eating, stuff like that. But the detractors were silencing, so at least we had a world final in 2020. And again, very well done to Sid Magic, who hopefully gets the chance to travel with the gold roof next year. Hopefully see him around a few of the tracks and doing the gold roof the justice that it deserves, in the same way that Mick Maskell and Stephen Bolton have done before. But I know the racing was very good. Was there any other highlights of the event that really stuck out for you, Jordan?
No, I don't think so. I think although the atmosphere was dampened somewhat, and I know we've said about how great and fantastic the coverage is on Speedworth TV and how much those guys have learned over the course of the year. But I just think the atmosphere and the buzz of the World Final is always great. And I think, although it may not have been the same as Dom pointed out, it was still certainly there. Walking around the pinch, you've got the nervousness from the drivers, the excitement from the crowd, and just that buzz. I think it was still there. As usual, the on-track presentation was brilliant. It was great to still see the world qualifiers having a lap of honour and a parade by themselves before the world final race, and it was just good to see, obviously, the cars before the race properly as well. So yeah, I think that was it. I'll be honest, it was also actually quite nice to have a reduced crowd there, because it just allowed me as a spectator and, as someone who really enjoys taking photographs, to space out and to walk around without treading on people's toes and getting in people's way. It was just, that part of it was so much more relaxed, and I've got to be honest, it was quite enjoyable, to be honest.
Was it the first ever wet?
That's good.
Was it the first?
Tom, obviously you were on a bit of a busman's holiday. You were working and enjoying itself, and really stick out to you, or just take it all in?
No, it was a good night, and I didn't really touch on the racing, specifically the world final race, in my earlier statement. It was a good evening of racing. The wrecking might not have been there for some people. I certainly feel that earlier meetings this year, as I've already mentioned, like Civil War, and the other BWS rounds at Northampton and Yarmouth, I thought they had a bit more of a special touch than World Final night, which really sounds almost sacrilege saying. But the actual World Final race, credit to Sid Madrick. He was touted as one of the favourites going into the meeting. From fifth on the grid, he always seemed likely. There were other ones up there which we thought could do it. I was certainly quite excited to see what 542 Craig Oliver could do, in that he was the only person driving a Volvo that night. Bravely bought a saloon with a 2.8 litre engine in it. Unfortunately, that didn't go very far. No, well, not bad indeed. Peter Hanmer in the Austin 3 litre as well. Credit to him for bringing that out, despite unfortunately not getting very many laps under his belt. Sonic, I can't echo his praise enough for what he's done this year. And so many other drivers who really put on a show. 717 Tuffin getting all the way through from 30th position up to where he did. Same could be said for the GOAT Jack Overy, 46th position he started in, and he made the race what it should have been. He really delivered on his part and made it an exciting race all round for the fans watching at the stadium and the track. After the World Final race, though, it was pretty much as I expected. There was a bit of car saving until the final race of the night. I was hoping it would end in a bit more of a destructive manner, but with the 10 laps for the wild card race, it did. Yeah, it was like a showdown. You're only going to see so much. But again, there was some really good drives out there, and congratulations to Steve McGrath on that win. As we wrongly said, it was someone else in the commentary. By that point in the evening, our windows had steamed up and we could not see anything out of it. We were relying completely on the monitors, and 388 was a number that we didn't have on our sheets because he was noted down as 38. So, well done to Steve-O for winning that wild card spot for next year, who will be joining Sid Madrick on the grid as the only two so far, I think.
Will do, and that'll suit Steve-O down to the ground because he doesn't have to worry about clocking up the points at all now, so he can crash as much as he wants. Hopefully next year when we get more racing done. But James, you were like me, so you were very much a remote spectator for the evenings. Any thoughts you had? Or now, given the footage that you saw was exactly the same footage that I saw, let's see if we see anything different in this.
No, I don't have anything other than what we said already. Just I'd like to. I do remember, like I said, like the last few where we've had the wild card. Instead we've had the showdown as the last race rather than a traditional destruction derby. There's a few people that still get confused about that to this day, but the reason is, of course, the amount of money that goes into the unlimited national bangers. You rarely see a DD anyway, and if you do, it's usually because it's a special event with cars built for one meeting only. A world final car, God knows how much extra money on top of what you'd usually spend goes on that as well. So it's always been the showdown in the past. The prize with the incentive of prize money, extra prize money if you finish last. But this year that was swapped around to be the first 2021 wildcard, which saw a good amount of cars out on the grid. And again, as it's a wildcard, you're not going to see everyone going out there to have a crash necessarily. A lot of people will be going out there to have a race, put themselves on the grid. But it does get more cars back out because after two all-comers and after the final, it's very difficult to get the cars back out for that. So I think it was a little bit of a gamble. You're always going to, especially at these meetings, have people go, "Oh, why is it the last race?" Something about trying to get as many people to crash as possible. But I think on a night like this, just getting that many cars out for the last race was a good solution. And we'll come on to this point again later with the 1600cc Spedeworth Bangers final, because they did the same thing. But I think it was a gamble that paid off and something that I'd like to see return in the future meetings.
Well, that's it. When on the subject of that, wildcard versus showdown. You seem to be quite keen to talk about this, James. So let your thoughts run free.
I thought I just did, Ed. So I thought I went into. That's what I was saying. No, but yeah, I just want to see it come back in future meetings. I think it's exactly what we need to be doing really on a night such as this with cars that expensive. It's better to have 40 cars in a last race. You'll see more action by accident, if more than anything, than seeing 6 cars out there or 7 cars out there. Winner gets X amount of money. It's doubled if the last car running. You're definitely going to see more cars out there if it's a wild card, especially when those cars have on the whole been built to race, especially if you want to see the cars that are in the world final race come back out. You're more likely to see that if it is a race rather than effectively an entertainment race.
Well, that's it. This event is the showcase of banger racing. Like some people mightn't think that. Some people might say the likes of Stan Mulls or something like that is, or any of the other kind of themed meetings. But it is the showcase meeting. The drivers do put a lot of effort in. So obviously they want to get the most out of their investment, either from a financial return or from the good old fashioned having a good time return. But for what it was very good. So would anyone disagree with that? Given the circumstances, it could have been a lot worse in that it mightn't have happened at all. So we just need to be thankful in that aspect of things.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't really see how it could have been any worse than what it was unless it hadn't have gone ahead at all. And I think, as Dom quite rightly said, I don't really think it's fair to sort of say, oh, it could have been better, when, to be honest, we were very, very lucky to have the meeting at all. So, yeah, I agree with that, Ed.
Oh, that's fine. So, Dom, did you feel confident in front of the camera, or were you all butterflies, or did you even just close your eyes and forget there was a camera pointed at you?
I'm never as good in front of the camera. I always prefer commentating behind it. But yeah, it's in front of it. I'm always a little bit more nervous. But you just there's so much adrenaline on that night. You just have to go with it. And yeah, I hope it came across reasonably professionally, because I was probably shaking like a leaf inside. But
So you
the
weren't.
night.
Go on. Sorry, go on. I was
I
going to say
know.
you weren't imagining everyone in their underwear. That's not only what helps, apparently. Well, you
No,
wouldn't want
no.
to see some
There
of
is
the
no
people
way
there.
that there is no way that helps at a Bangor World Final.
Yeah, with the guests we had on the show and with the team, I don't think there was anyone really worthy of that thought. But
Yeah, there
yeah,
were no
it
Greek girls there either, were there?
I'll try my hardest not to take that as an insult, Dom.
Well, anyway, that was. I hope it came across all right, because the whole organisation of the night was very. Took a lot of planning. We had a lot of meetings beforehand about how it was all going to work, amongst the team and amongst Spedeworth. We were working very hard together. But just to go back onto the racing thing, I just wanted to bring it up, because this was a discussion I had. I think it was with Gavin Bockfield on World Final night, or it was one of the commentary team. I can't remember exactly, but we were talking about the showdown and the wild card, how we swapped it out. I'm a traditionalist, and I would have loved it to be in a DD, regardless of what expensive machinery you've got under your shell. You're banger driver, you should do a DD. I received a message not long ago, in the run-up to the World Final, from someone on Oval Chat, basically giving me the idea, or premising the idea of what happens if you did the wild card, but with a destruction derby. So if you win the DD, then you get the place on the World Final grid. I thought that would be a really good idea, but discussing that on World Final night, it does actually have its drawbacks, because a DD is the fun and games bit at the end of the night, where it's not really meant to be competitive. You're just doing it to finish off. But when you add an incentive to it, it does actually. You have to set some concrete rules, and then it becomes a bit more.
I think to me,
It sounds a bit strange.
I think to me as well, putting a DD winner on a World Final grid. Obviously, from the entertainment aspects, that's good, but it also feels as well is the DD winner. It is the race to see who's the best racer, not who's the best wrecker, effectively. And I think. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. No, I was going to say I do agree with that. I think that obviously the World Final, you want to see who the best banger racing driver is, while still also having that natural instinct to avoid the carnage and the cars on opposite as well, that there may well be trying to take you out. And I think it also sort of resonates, and to sort of go back onto the PRI World Final, Mendips, I know I asked Mick Maskell Jr. about this in the programme, and he doesn't like the idea of sort of having a World Final race being decided by last car running, and he said it should be, race to see who is the quickest. And I think to qualify for the World Final, although we have the Entertainers League, I think largely it should be done the same way, because you do want to see the best racers in the World Final, as it were, to have that sense of exposure and importance.
And actually,
I'm not.
Sorry, go on, Dom. I was just going to say, it does fit in this year with the way that the BWS rounds have been run, because this was the first year where the wild card was put on as the last race, not the showdown. The showdown was put on as Heat 2, effectively the first all-comers before the wild card final, and you had to take part in that to be able to do the wild card later on, and that worked really well this year, I thought. On the whole, I know there were some rounds were brilliant, some rounds were average, some rounds were a little bit underwhelming, but I think on the whole it really worked from a spectator point of view, and I think it does follow on with the way the BWSs have been run this year.
Just to add though, as much as I like my crashing, I'm not here to say let's tear up the rule book. And I think I think you should be rewarded to a certain degree on World Final night equally, because it is the World Final night, and the World Final winner should obviously be the person who wins the race, no doubt about that. But if you're going to offer up wild cards for the entire year for race wins and so on and stuff like that, I think for one night there should possibly be a chance to get a wild card slot for being the entertainer or for being the DD winner in the case of the message that I received.
But something you also mentioned about the rule book and how you would police a destruction derby. Stewards in a DD can be a little bit lax with the rules as long as no one's being unsafe. For example, if a car hasn't moved effectively, the tradition has always been if you've been out of action for 10 seconds, you shouldn't be rejoining the DD, for example. That's why you have the 10-second countdown at the end. Now, with that many cars on the grid, I mean, you're going to have a spotter on each car just checking they're still active. How do you stop a car in a DD? They're not passing the starter. It's very difficult to disqualify a car in a DD. How do you stop that having an effect? I just think it'd be almost impossible to police, and I think that's the marshal in me.
I mean, that's the thing. That's the conversation we had on World Final night. As much as it would be an ideal, it's something that arguably you'd have to go hot rod style, and you'd have to have receivers in to speak with the drivers and say you're out, and it would have to almost be Robot Wars style rules in place of you can't do this, you can't do that, and it sort of takes the fun out of the DD. So it would. I actually think the system in place is fine, but it would be. I think there should be some reward elsewhere.
Would you see two drivers going for a head-on if there's 5 cars left, if there's a wild card, or would you end up with the starter's arm falling off and waving the blue flag so much because they're avoiding each other?
Yeah. It'll be a race to run out of petrol, quite possibly. But I'm going to throw another suggestion into the ring. If we have obviously the wild cards at a BWS and we have the Entertainers League, why don't, say for instance, every other BWS round, so say for instance there's 7 BWS rounds throughout the season, at the start you pick 3 of those rounds to have a DD at the end, and then you can do a DD World Series. So the winner of each DD gets 10 points, and then second gets 5, third gets 2, and then fourth gets 1.
That comes down to cost
and then
again,
you have the top 2 from it going into the World Final itself.
It sort of just goes down to cost again, though, doesn't it? People want whether or not they'll DD a Loman race engine.
It's where the drivers want to do it too, though.
And also just one other point, another suggestion. If we're going to throw suggestions out there, hat in the ring. Maybe run three all-comers. You can come out in them as much as you want. Entertainer of the night from the all-comers gets an entertainers wild card, or gets 50 points in the next year's Entertainers League.
I think those are good suggestions to maybe liven it up. But no, it was just an idea I had because I think the Entertainers League. I've got to be honest, I'm a massive fan of it. I think. On what was sort of the lull that the Banger World Series had for a couple of seasons after it bursting onto the scene in 2014, I think it has just rejuvenated everyone and the drivers themselves.
We spoke about this at the end of the last year, and we thought, I know this year's been a bit of a weird year, but we spoke about it at the end of last year about how it was rewarding people like Jackstar, who was coming in something weird and wonderful every Banger World Series event.
No, that's it. I think the basic formula is sound. It's very good. Just might need a little bit of tweaking here and there, given that the evolution of the sport. We're talking about expensive cars, expensive tires. You see people nowadays taking the good tires off, putting the bad tires on for the all-comers. Because the job's being done. But we'll wrap this one up in something we did the last time. We had a predictions competition. We wanted to see basically who would predict the finishers and where. Now, we actually did quite well in this one. Jordan wins our predictions competition because he said Jack Tuffin would finish in the top 4, and he did. He also said that Sid Magic would be up there. So Jordan actually missed getting the top spot. The guy said Leonard Dunn would get 3rd. And I think somebody else said Jack Overy would be up there as well. So we did okay in the predictions competition. I think, James, you predicted Joey Reynolds.
Yeah, no, I completely overthought it. I thought Winter, Ipswich, Slippy. Who's a driver that's fast on slippy tracks? Joey, because of his experience at Stanlake, etc. I overthought it, as anything can happen. I think, didn't he retire with a puncher, or have I imagined that? But he definitely
Yeah.
He didn't.
I don't even think he did 5 laps.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. I mean, it was yeah. I mean, it was a bit of an outside bet, but I think maybe I overthought it. Who would be on a slippy track fast, and maybe he could. He'll have his year. He nearly had his year this year in the 1600s, which we'll come on to.
Literally about to say that, he was very good in the 1600s, but we'll come to the 1600s in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Can I just claim that my prediction was actually for the 1600s, and I got really confused?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Nope.
Have you borrowed Matt's book of the racing drivers' excuses? Only renamed it Pundits' Excuses.
Yeah, I'm up to page 900. I'm about 20% through.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay.
Still got a way to go then.
So basically, Jordan wins the predictions competition for this year, and his prize is 30 minutes of FaceTime with Matt Josie. So that's a wonderful prize, and we really hope you enjoy your lovely prize, Jordan.
Yeah, and we hope when you
we
do it, we take the advice we gave to Dom and imagine the person you're speaking to naked to calm you down a bit.
Well, we've seen Matt naked already, haven't we? So I need to think of something else.
Sorry, when was this?
When was nothing but his glasses.
When was?
Remember when he put his webcam?
Was this? That was me who put my webcam on accident. I was in pajamas. That was something different.
No, but Matt was naked when he did his one, if you recall. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Is this a private chat you guys are in? Do I really want to be part
of
this?
No, do you not remember that, James? I'm kicking James very hard under the virtual table here. Do you not remember that, James? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
No, I only get his naked Snapchats. I've not seen the video.
We were talking about Monty Python the other night, so the humour's lost on nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah. Oh God, sorry.
Finally gets the joke.
Sorry, sorry. I'm feeling a bit slow today. Sorry about that. Yeah, there we go.
Oh dear.
No comment. So yeah, we hope that Jordan enjoys his lovely prize, and that's compliments of everyone at Caged. Yeah, we give the best. We give the best prizes out of Caged.
Yeah, I mean, half hour with Matt Josie is absolutely wonderful. I can't wait for that. Can hardly hide my excitement.
Yeah, well, usually 30 seconds of him is enough. So you're doing 100 times that. Or
Cheers,
200 times. Oh, probably very welcome, Jordan.
No, I think 100 is good maths. Yeah, I'm sure someone will correct us.
And we'll be looking for an in-depth report of how it all went as well. Don't forget.
Oh yeah, don't forget my report of my face-to-face with Matt Josie will be on www.cagedbangers.co.uk. We'll also get insight from James Keane.
Oh yeah, don't worry, we'll be in your corner. We'll be the ones kind of psyching you up and give the old smelling salts and the towels and all that. So it'll be a proper 30 minutes hardcore session here.
Just don't throw in the white towel.
No, as I said, I'll emphasise the last thing I said. Anyway, that's not really something to dwell on, really, Jordan. I mean, it's going to be a big thing, but we won't talk about it anymore, okay? Like, I'm sure you're all excited about this. It is. A little bit of news. We'll start with the good news first. The fixtures right now, literally in the last hour, Trackstar have updated to say they'd like to confirm their intention to stage the 28th December fixture, 28th of December, which is 3 days after Christmas, featuring micro bangers, 1,300 stock cars and 2-litre bangers, 1 o'clock start. As a COVID-19 secure venue and good to go business, we will be unable to accept visitors from the Tier 4 areas in line with government policy. The ticket holders, of which is all sold out as far as I'm aware, received an email today on next steps. Drivers will be contacted. So they're making a few changes. Obviously, if this can happen, that would be great. It always is time for Christmas meetings. Unfortunately, the way things are going at the moment, there's not going to be as many of them. But it seems to be getting good feedback on that one. So a few of the other meetings, though, over the Christmas have been cancelled. But for right now, it seems to be one of the few meetings going ahead. James, a bit of unfortunate news.
So there's 2 bits of first unfortunate news. The first bit will go. Unfortunately, it's been announced this week that unfortunately Scott Taylor has passed away. He's a man that a lot of people would have met around the races up and down, whether it was in any capacity, but most recently as his role as a scrutineer with Spedeworth tracks. From myself and from, I'm sure, every member of the Orange Army and everyone that's met him or knew him would like to pass our condolences on to friends and families. That was a bit of gutty news. And the second bit, which pales into insignificance really with the first bit, was that Speedworth have announced that all meetings up until the end of January have been suspended, including the Yarmouth and Yarmouth and Arlington meetings that were due to go ahead just after Christmas. This is again in line with what they've been told and the councils that they run in. They just don't feel that they'll be able to run it within the regulations and what they need to do to keep everyone safe, with drivers coming from various areas. It's a difficult decision for them, I'm sure. I'm sure they'd love to stay open if they could, but they just can't. And so the Spedeworth office will be... they'll still be working behind the scenes feverishly, I'm sure. But if you need to get in contact with the office, get in touch with them directly. If you had tickets for any of those meetings, they've said that the tickets will be valid at the next meetings at the stadiums. But there will not be any Spedeworth in Car Race Mildenhall meetings until February now.
Now, unfortunately, would include the BWS round that was scheduled to be at Hemsworth that we were talking about last time out.
It does indeed include that meeting.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on. Any more news items, guys, or shall we move on to the second? Actually, a huge news item which we didn't mention, the Caged Awards. So check it out mainly on our Facebook page. Vote for your favourite driver of the year, your favourite meeting of the year, your favourite car of the year. There's a few other categories as well. We were trying to get Bryson on this evening to discuss that, but he's not around. Any thoughts on this one? Any biased thoughts on this one, guys?
Well, I just we've got so many votes coming in already. I know Bryson's working really feverishly behind the scenes to get them all counted up and ready. We'll be pre-recording the votes close on the 28th. We'll be pre-recording our award show on the 29th, which should go on the 30th.
And hopefully we get to get every single member of the Cage team will be online one way or the other. So the notorious recluse, graphics genius there, Steph, she'll be on as well, reading out one of the winners. We'll even try and get Matt Josie on to do a posh voice.
There is also something else we'll be doing. That will be opening the Caged Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so the Caged Hall of Fame. So each of the members of Caged are inducting something or someone. Could be a track, could be an event, could be a driver. We'll be inducting that into the Hall of Fame, plus some others to get the ball rolling. So you'll see more about that coming up, and listen to our special. Just before Christmas, this isn't our Christmas show. It'll be our Christmas show that you'll see everywhere on the 30th. That we'll do the awards in the Hall of Fame. But also some other good news, Ed. Before we move on, obviously Bradford, the first fixture poster's out. It's all looking good.
Yeah. It's looking good. Star Trek's have done a great job getting this one ready. Let's see. I'm just checking there. I did actually get the email of it.
Well, it's Stan Woods, isn't it? Stan Woods are doing.
Stan Woods, yeah, be interesting. Basically, the classic car meeting, and basically the best racing surface for the classic meetings on a bit of shale. Obviously, takes all the advantage away in one way or the other. So no point having a whizzy engine. It's not going to work. You're just going to spin the wheels. So the opening fixture will be the Stan Woods meeting. They're already looking for let's see, sir, and just basically the full details will be announced on the 28th of December, ready for the 1st of January. So we might even be able to brush on that in our next version of Caged. Shall have more news on that. Yeah, so the date of that is National Stan Woods meeting episode 9. That is Saturday the 24th of April. First race away at 6:30. So yeah, and we're looking forward to that. You know, a well-established meeting at a brand new track. So
and I think it's good as well because obviously the last one was at stake, and obviously the drivers did everything they could, but the weather was massively against them, wasn't it? So it was. I don't want to say it's disappointment because with these meetings, but I think it probably was a bit for drivers and spectators with the weather. I know everyone tried their best, but Mother Nature was against them. So it's almost sort of fitting that after a meeting that sort of petered out at a track we lost, that a track we're getting back, it'll be the first meeting back and something that everyone can really look forward to.
Yeah. It must be said that the Stan Woods meeting will be the first national banger meeting back. Of course, the opening fixture is Labrisco Formula One stock cars making a triumphant return to probably one of their best venues they raced at, especially if you look back at the 80s and 70s and stuff like that. Some absolutely fantastic.
It's going to be a bit of a spiritual homecoming for them, isn't it? Really, around there.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Yeah, and I think everyone within right in Brisker Heartland in West Yorkshire. I think it'll be fantastic for the sport as well and for the formula because you know they've they've lost some tracks over the years that have been very, very important to them and for their driver base as well as their fan base. So yeah, no, I think it'll be great for the Formula 2 get Bradford back, and I think everyone's going to be buzzing about that.
And we'll leave Jordan out this time, but the first time since 1997 we're racing Bangers Mike at Bradford. So yeah, this should be really good. Yeah, then again, Otsel Stadium, Bradford, Saturday, 24th of April, 2021. First race away at 6:30, so I'll be under the lights. Be good atmosphere then as well. Hopefully we can give Stan the man another good session to look down on, and he's up there. I'm sure he'd be very happy when he sees it all happen. But we'll move on to basically part 2 of our World Final review, which was the 1600 Banger World Final, formerly known as the Rookie World Final, but now kind of established as the smaller car version of the World Final, mostly front-wheel drive stuff. Again, track conditions were very similar, sliding all over the place. Now, the difference being this time, none of us actually were there. I know a few of us are watching on Spedeworth TV. A few of us are kind of relying on updates from the meeting. But James, you were watching it a bit more previously than I was this time. So, firstly, the winner. It was a very it was a proper World Final, wasn't it? It was a proper race.
It was the end. The end of the race was exactly what the end of an oval World Final should be, especially in a contact class. Quickly just going to go through the last chance qualifiers. First race probably a bit tame. Brinstar took up an early lead. Jordan Cummings looked really quick, but it was always a lap down. Lewis Cannon took up the lead, and Stuart Aldridge took second. So those were the two going through. In the last chance qualifiers, things actually started to pick up a little bit. We saw drivers getting spun, especially into turn 2. Bit of a collection going in. 84 Peach was involved in there. 303, who took up an early lead, managed to avoid his way through. There was a bit of a pile-up going into turn 4, which involved a rollover for 212 Dave Dawes. Driver got out okay. But with one lap left, 303 was miles out in front, but actually ended up dropping off, but did get through to win, followed by second, which was number 40, John Gallagher. Going into the main race itself, obviously as the cars came out, again watching live, this was a meeting I should have been at, but as London went into Tier 3 at the time, I wasn't able to travel to Ipswich. Absolutely gutting for me, but obviously Greg could still go ahead. As they came out, obviously Ash Dash came out as defending champion. He would have been one of 2 drivers on the grid that had the potential to make it 3. The other one, of course, being Mark Almeida, and Lee Kingsnorth and Danny Grady followed out as the Speedworth and in-car race points champions. So as the race got started, Wiggles got away clean from pole position, but the back markers already on an absolute pat track and an ice rink were already there. Mark Almeida started cutting his way through straight away, but then we had a red flag for a driver on the home straight. Medical vehicles came out on track, but for an accidental T-bone into the driver's door of Nicky Jarvis. Luckily, he was just heavily winded and was able to get out of the car on his own after taking some time. Completely understandable. As we restarted, Gromit's Cortina took an absolute heavy T-bone from Lethal, bananaed the car on the passenger side, but he was able to get it going because the red flags came out not long after, and he was able to rejoin the restart. And as we had the restart, Mark Almeida took an instant lead, but a wheel on the raceway. There's a wheel on the raceway, but it did roll to the infield, which means the flags didn't have to come out. And as we carried on, there was Mark Almeida got done on his way round while he was in the lead. Joey Reynolds was up to third, and it was but with Mark Almeida still can't get my words out. Sorry, 1 second. So 354 was leading at the last restart. Mark Almeida was stopped. After Mark Almeida was stopped, Joey was then leading, and then Joey got spun by Josh Valden with a last bend lunge from 354. Joey was sideways, just couldn't hold it in a straight line, and within tasting distance of that checker flag, Joey just couldn't get it round, but he did manage to get himself back to third. But Josh Valden became the Speedworth 1600 champion of the world. All comers, yeah. So the first one, we ended up with a complete restart. Jordan Cummings looked very quick from the beginning, but red flags came out with 5 to go. Ended up with number 141 taking the win. All comers 2, huge surge from the green flag. The new world champion took quite a bit of damage straight away, and Josh Gallagher was also spun hard, had another red flag. This one actually was won by Joey Reynolds, winning one race too late for him because obviously this is his first race out since his spin. I actually did speak to Keefe after the world final. He said Joey's attitude apparently was, well, it was a great race, these things happen. And I just said to Keefe, don't worry mate, your boy's time will come. Because it was one of those, it's what everyone wants to see. The last race again was a wildcard race, and that was won by 591, who will be coming back to take his place in 2021. Hopefully, once all of this has gone away. But again, quite a lot of cars came out for the wildcard. In previous years, this has always been a decent DD. It's usually just on the Kent Cam's turn. They sort of shut off half the track, which usually leads to a decent DD. But this year, we went with the wildcard format. And it was a decent race, but it was mainly spinners around by this point.
What was it? I mean, it was good. It was good, exciting racing. I mean, it's what you expect from the 6-0. Nearly, bar the Cortina, every single car is front wheel drive as well. So, you know, obviously the handling differences of front wheel drive cars are going to be a little bit different. Obviously,
sure.
plenty of oversteer instead of understeer. So obviously, when I seen Joey getting half spun, I was like, he's going to hold it. He's going to hold it.
Yeah.
Well, you literally see him, you know, crossing over the hands, really, obviously, either foot flat to the floor, or what was he trying to do? He's trying to straighten it back out again.
And again on it,
but like you said,
but it was exactly sort of like seeing like Mark out at the front. I thought it was going to be the first triple champion, and then when Joey took up the lead, I thought on this slippy track, Joey's going to hold it, but just couldn't get there. It's one of those things. But again, with the wildcard winner, it's good to see Aaron Morris getting back on it. Is a driver that, especially down at Aldershot, you'll see very often. In back to basics or rookie, well, not I say rookie, but everyone's been shouted at for saying rookie this, especially on Oval Chat. But we'll leave that. In 1600cc bangers, Aaron Morris is a driver that is pretty dedicated to that formula, that and back to basics. So it's really good to see him booking his place on already. I'm sure he would have qualified by the points already, but a very deserving driver of a victory on World Final night.
Yeah. It was good. It was good racing. It was entertaining as well. Again, watch it online. Exciting racing. Like, you know, I know Jordan would get very, very annoyed when I say this. It was nearly as good as British Touring Cars because you just didn't know what was going to happen next at one stage.
Yeah, it's I think that's testament to the British Touring Cars as well as it is the domestic bangers. But
well, we have said before the British Touring Cars is the real BWS, or is that the other way around? You know, expensive cars crashing into each other all the time.
No, I think that's a very accurate statement to make. But no, in all seriousness, it sounded like a really good night. And yeah, Dom, I think it was good. Speaking of British Touring Cars, it was good to hear a familiar voice on Speedworth TV Saturday night as well.
Yeah, I was really sad that I couldn't go to that night. Well, mainly because of the watching it on the channel and seeing how good the race meeting was, but also because we had special guest David Allison on the mic, who really I was not aware how into bangers he was. I knew that from having him on the show in previous weeks on the Back on Track series. I knew he was a big short oval racing fan, but I thought he was predominantly rod based, like some of the Graham Browns of this world. But he really shone on that night and really put his own personal touch of his experiences and passions about short oval racing into it as well, which I personally haven't known before. So it was pretty special hearing him on the mic, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have him back again at some point. David is certainly very happy with the way everything went, and he's been a real supporter of the channel ever since we got going, and has appeared multiple times on the Friday night show. So, his addition to the channel really made it something special. The racing was the main thing, though. We couldn't have done it without the drivers. And boy, oh boy, were those last 5 laps of the Rookie World, I was on the edge of my seat. That was, I thought that I was committed. Words, tongue. Where's it going? I was convinced that Almeida was going to win his third, but then just out of shot, we got him taken out, and into the lead went Joey. And then, well, Joey, I think, would be one of the most popular world champions in any format. He's so committed to the formula with his travelling the other year, and with his all-round Mr. Nice Guy attitude, going in for the Rex as well this year. He's been known to. So, he's been a real star, and again, I thought he was going to do it, but Vowden with the fantastic push did it, timed just right as well. It was such a perfectly executed move, and he's come out of this thoroughly well-deserved winner, and bringing the championship home to East Anglia. I must say, I like that.
It's one of those things that, like, the last spin lunge is such a well-known phenomenon in oval racing, and to see it used so well, because we saw it in one of the earlier, I think it was in one of the last chance qualifiers, where a lunge like that on the leader, you risk putting yourself out, but he timed it perfectly, because it was just at the moment Joey couldn't really do much about it. It was just as he was going into effectively turn 4, so the second half of the Kent Cams bend, and he just couldn't, no matter how fast he was moving his hands, he just couldn't adjust his car quick enough, and Vowden just managed to keep enough momentum using Joey's car to effectively guide his round the corner.
Well, that's it. That was a proper touring car move, as you say, door handle. But yeah, no, just very quickly, I know Don was very pleased that David Allison was there. Like, I've known him a few years. My abiding memory of him was we were in Navarra in Spain for the at the time it was the Blancpain Endurance Series, and it was just just a Saturday night in the hospitality tent. You don't really see them in all racing, but sitting around talking rubbish, and me and him were cowered over a laptop in the corner looking for updates on the 2012 Ipswich World Final, which was eventually won by Boxer Jack. And we had to explain to a few people what banger racing was, so a few YouTube clips and that came out. So these are the guys racing £1 million cars, and they were more than interested in watching them stuff getting smashed up. But David Allison, he's definitely an asset to have him there, because he's commentates the British Touring Cars. He also commentates on the what's it called now? I think it's Pirelli GT World Challenge, formerly the FIA GT Championship. So
I was going to say, he's got so many things on the go at the moment. I know he was also talking about European Truck Racing Championship, which I had a quick investigation of after he mentioned that, which is also very similar to British touring cars, except with many more tons involved.
Yeah. He has also done quite a bit of British Rallycross as well this year. I think he was at Lyddon only last weekend. I think actually on the date of the National Banger World Final, commentating at Lyddon Hill as well.
So the thing with David is he pretty much knows everything about the racing as well. He can tell you a bit about the driver, tell you a bit about the car, the track, everything. So he's the consummate professional, as we say. But he's just very into what he commentates about, which is good. Half the guys on the boring Formula One side of things, not brisket Formula One, of course. The Formula One that turns right as well. Fair enough, it's had an interesting last few races, but just the commentators, they get excited about what they see. They get excited about certain drivers rather than everything. So, we try and bring a good balance to it all.
But again, I was going to say, I know we've thrown a lot of praise at them this evening, but it just goes to show how Spedeworth TV has gone from strength to strength. Both World Finals were so well presented throughout, with the guests they had, and like in the 1600cc Bangor final with like Cecil and Roger Wilco getting involved. It was so good. Did you just laugh at me because I said rookie again?
Yes, sorry.
I thought you might have done. We all know they're not rookies. But
it's either laugh at your mistakes or do a Birmingham accent again.
Well, no one wants to hear that. But again, it was just so well presented throughout, and again with the commentary for both World Finals were fantastic, and it really goes to show how well worth it is. £12.
It is.
Despite some Ron Burgundy auto cue moments, as Ed put it.
Oh, yeah, we won't go there. We'll save him his embarrassment. Putting question marks at the end or saying something out loud that he later regrets. The thing is, as well, don't forget, Spedeworth years and years ago, even before my time, they were the people who really brought the show element into oval racing. They're the ones still at the big World Finals with the fireworks and try and get it on TV when they could. Go for like the pizzazz side of it rather than just we're going racing on Sunday kind of thing, But I'm sure at the time, Les Eaton, he was the one to push all that. It was him that came up with the idea of World Finals, Gold Roof, all that kind of thing, try and push the preparation on a bit. So it's only getting better and better. Yeah. So basically,
I think as well. So I was going to say, when people have seen bangers on TV in the past, everyone forgets how much that's edited by the fact they've had cameras and been able to do an edit. For a live broadcast to work that well in a banger race, I know we've had the national hot rods on Motors TV in the past and live, but I think people forget how difficult it is in a banger race to broadcast it live.
It is, and you need several cameras. Obviously, as this continues, we could even get to the stage where you have in-car cameras. I know, I'd like that very much. Even if I know you can get little transmitters now for the GoPro, so obviously the cameras will take a bit of abuse. There's another years ago, a touring car race, and if there was a bit of a crash, the cameras would get broken, either get knocked off their mount or just literally knocked out of action. Now, obviously, we won't be doing like Australian touring cars years ago and putting cameras inside headlights and all that. Won't be that good, I don't think. Just a very secure mounting on the road cage will do. But I mean, it's good that they can show bangers live, and I mean, this will only go from strength to strength now. I know at one stage they were meant to show the Ipswich World Final on live. Was it Motors TV?
It was on Motors TV, yeah. And again, I think David Addison was meant to be commentating on that as well, but I can't actually remember the reason why. But I know it was a fairly late deal that meant it couldn't be shown live. I really can't remember.
It clashed with a race that any true motorsport fan will get excited with, the Bathurst 1000. So, Luna Bangers versus the homebrew V8 Aussie touring cars. I know this isn't the place to talk about them, but probably are the best circuit racing going.
Yeah.
Just to sound nothing else, basically.
I think about the only thing now missing from it that you would see on a televised broadcast would be the on-screen graphics, but we all know how difficult it is with bangers and transponders, which probably wouldn't even work in banger racing anyway, to be able to do those live on-screen graphics. But you can see how much it's coming from strength to strength, and I just think it would probably get better and better from here.
Well, obviously, we're looking at the good work that like Dave Goddard does for Briscoe Formula 1 and Formula 2, and sometimes the other stock car formulas get put into the TV broadcast as well. So, I mean, if we can bring something to bangers as good as that, get it on mainstream TV, it can only be a good thing, can't it?
Yeah. I think also, while we are sort of saying about how brilliant the live stream is and how good the TV coverage is, that although it does bring in new audiences, we mustn't forget how vital going to stock car racing is. Like, we can't have people just choosing to sit at home and watch meetings live. We need to keep on getting people into the circuits, because at the end of the day, that is what will keep circuits open and will keep the sport thriving. So, yeah. Never a truer word spoken, has to be said. It's something that we always push on. But I think we've discussed all we need to discuss on this one, guys. Any final thoughts, or shall we move on? Give Dom a chance. He's gone nice and quiet again. Yeah, broke the microphone again. Dom,
I'm just trying to think, because I wasn't really there. Like I said, I was on Pirate Patrol on Saturday night, trying to catch out people. You laugh. That's
is that as glamorous as it sounds? Were you on a Royal Navy gunship?
Yeah, I was going to say, was Johnny
dinghies out of the water?
HMS Waterspite with the guns pointed at these people in wooden boats. If only it was that fun. No, it was the same thing that Ed pointed out earlier about the National, because we still had people streaming or trying to stream the 1600cc World Final, sadly. And I was just, because everyone else, that was the thing, everyone else was very much focused on the event. They had shorter numbers on that night. I couldn't be there, and a few others couldn't be there, so it was a bit more skeleton staff, and I think I was basically on lookout. I had the cushy comfort of my own home, but yeah, I still had some work to do. And as much as I did watch the World Final race, but I must admit I didn't watch the entire thing. I have left other bits to watch in post. But it came across very well from that. It's very hard for me to say that, because I work for Spedeworth TV, so it's very difficult. Everyone seems to have given it a good reception, though, and I think the rookies. I said rookies again. Ugh, dear. 1600s, I think, delivered a lot more.
Sorry, Dom, I'm just thinking, if we have some sort of swear jar, we all have to donate £5 to Ford's Care every time one of us calls 1600s rookies. That might stop us.
Yeah, the word got banded around so much that evening. It was either I'm not sure, because some people just called it Bangers World Final, which I think is too similar to National Bangers because it's just only one
I
word
think that's
difference.
well, I didn't.
Some
Yeah,
people called it the
yeah. So all the
some
official,
people called it the Rookie.
So all the official graphics said 1600 Banger World Final. Effectively, what it is the Speedworth Domestic Bangers World Final.
So just so what was the R word again there, James? Is he even going to say the R word?
Yeah, I mean, what word, mate? Sorry, money's tighter on Christmas.
No, I just have I have a new measure here now. So if you say the R word again, it's just a test now. You won't get in trouble or anything.
Well, if Dom's on Pirate Patrol, arr.
I'll just say rookie. See, I'll just say rookie, and then when you say rookie, you get it.
Yeah, it's the rookie. Well, it's what was rookie bangers in the 90s that evolved into domestic bangers.
You're gonna break me buzzer here, James. I'm very disappointed in you. But anyway, I'd just like to say as well, on the subject of the 1600 Biker World Championship, a massive well done to our main sponsor here, Cage, Steve Cecil Anscombe. Some of the insights he gave during the race, and again, the pre-recorded section was fantastic. Giving insight into what he does, his business, and what gives us so much pleasure. And we're very proud to be associated with Steve. Once again, we'll throw in the usual plug. If you want to get into racing, get involved with racing, go to Cecil's Rent Rookie, probably the easiest way to do it. All you need to do is turn up on the day and bring your sense of bravado. He'll give you everything else. But don't forget too now, the Caged Awards on our Facebook page at the moment. The votes are coming in, they're being counted. We're trying to make it a fair, what's the word? A fair overview of the year and the best things that stuck out. And of course, we have our Hall of Famers going in as well. If you have any suggestions for the Hall of Fame, don't forget to throw those in.
Sorry, Ed, if I could just very quickly jump in. If you are going to vote, can you please try and vote in all categories? We are trying to be as fair as possible this year. So if you are just going to vote for your mate or your favourite driver in just one category, it may get rejected if we see a flurry of votes coming in for just one driver without people trying to think about the other votes. So please try and vote in as many as you feel able to vote in.
And don't forget to vote. Vote fairly. Not a lot of our Dutch friends are voting for people that aren't even in the short listing. So, sorry, lads, you can't vote for Hertz Van Rental as much as you want to. See, Tom got my joke. That's good. I'm happy with that.
No, that was me.
Oh, but sorry, George.
Both of us. We both laughed at that one.
I
appreciate the jokes.
Ed, that was two people.
Even if it is 80s game show worthy.
That's two people getting your joke in one go. That must be a new record.
Yeah.
Well, at least they laughed, James. They laughed at me and not with me. So maybe that's something.
Pretty standard.
It's better than Matt Josie's. Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, Matt Josie's looking forward to Friday because he gets a new supply of jokes for the year. It was Christmas cards, and we can laugh at him because he's not here. Hi, Matt. We love you. Well, some of the shout-outs he made very vain attempts at putting up earlier on. Sorry, Matt. You know, I'm not like Ron Burgundy with the auto cue, the question mark at the end of it. It's not going to happen. But anyway, we shall move on. That brings us to the end. Oh, we're moving on to the end. That sounds good. Put a big prologue up at the end. But this again. Thanks again for the year. Pretty much have one more episode to go this year. It's to be the Cage Awards. So we'll be pre-recording that one. So there won't be as many throwaway humour as there is. We're actually going to be really serious about that, and I might have to get the old shirt and tie up for that one. But we'll spare you the thoughts.
Ed, to be fair, I've got about 18 hours to edit it before I've got to put it up. There'll probably be a lot of throwaway humour in it.
Right up. Okay, I'll remember that. So
I'll say, get your innuendos ready, lads.
Oh yeah. Actually, the worst thing is, Jordan, we'll have to draw a diagram for Matt as to what innuendo is.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
So that might take that might take the shine out of it, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
As Ed said, we love you, Matt. We really do.
Yeah, we love to. Actually, yeah, John, we've volume 3. We've his present booked, which is volume 3 of the Big Book of Racing Driver Excuses. Already for the Cage Virtual Series for 2021 to return. So plenty of reading material from Matt there now. As we used to say to him, get those excuses in now.
Be something for him to read on Christmas Day while he's waiting for his dinner to get down.
Oh yeah, very much so. And then obviously after watching the Queen and all that, you know.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and then the traditional fight, you know, the women want to watch Mary Poppins, the men want to watch The Great Escape. I mean, that's what Christmas is all about, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Nothing says Christmas like a family feud.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, and I'm also trying to get a list of my top 10 catchphrases together for the award show. Usually the likes of anyway, moving on. Absolutely, they're all in there. That's what's
I'm glad
important.
you recognise them as well.
Oh, and Ed's
Oh,
top
thank you
10.
very much.
Ed's top 10 accents. I'd be well up for that.
No, I think well, since the best one was never ever published, and it probably won't be until sometime next year during the Cage Virtual Series episode 2, or series 2 rather, if it makes a return, that'd be the main thing. But yeah, enough gentle piss taking evening. What brings us to the end of this show for tonight. I know we're having a Christmas show, but this is the last show before Christmas Day itself. So on behalf of the Cage crew, I'd like to wish you all a very happy and prosperous Christmas. Hopefully this current situation we're in, we no longer find ourselves in a couple of months' time, but it'll be worth the wait. It's going to be an awful lot of good racing to look forward to. So I'd like to thank you very much to the 3 panelists for this evening, and the man that made it all happen in the background. Thank you very much, James Keane.
Thank you very much, Ed. Thanks to everyone listening. And of course, thanks to Jordan, my usual partner in crime. And Dom, it's been brilliant to have you back again.
And thank you, Dean Jordan. He's always there. So, yeah, we appreciate you always being there, Jordan. I think you're kind of needing my wingman at this stage. So, not quite, but we'll just say that to keep people happy. Thank you very much, Jordan.
Cheers, Ed. Thanks, Dom, and thanks, James. And thank you, everyone, for listening this year and all your support. And have a very Merry Christmas Day.
And finally, he's part of the Cage crew, but he's also part of the Spedeworth TV crew, which keeps him very busy, and he loves bringing his soothing, dulcet tones to us all. Thank you very much, Dom Brock.
No problems at all, Ed. It won't be long before you are able to say the Radio 4 of bangers without actually anyone giggling, because it might actually be true at some point. I hope not, because Radio 4 is usually quite boring.
You never know. So basically, we could go to live coverage of bangers on Radio 4. Careful what you wish for.
To be fair, Dom, before you say that, I steal all of my quiz show ideas from Radio 4 for the Cage podcast, so don't like them too much.
Don't say that. You'll have other banger pages will start tuning in.
Well, they're more than welcome to it, because we're still the only people who do a podcast. Although any of the other big banger sites are always welcome to come on, because we're usually very fair with them. So that's the main thing.
Well, we have, haven't we?
Not too harsh on them.
We've had Northern Bangers on, we've had Totally Trashed on. If anyone else wants to come and be a guest, Ed will probably take the mickey out of us more than you, so it's fine.
Oh, well, it depends who it is. I mean, fair play to Totally Trashed and Northern Bangers. They kind of said they'd come on. They thought they'd be taken very not seriously, and they were. We're all on the same team together, which is what's important. Obviously, Northern Bangers are doing their votes for Car of the Year as well, being a short year. So, have a good look, get a few reminders of the few good meetings that we had this year. And I mean, given the current circumstances, I think every meeting was a good meeting. But that brings us to the end of Cage Full Throttle, episode 55. I've been Ed Fahey. Thanks for listening in, and we'll be back over to Christmas. Thank you.